Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Thanks very much in advance for your support. And if you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the videos. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to talk about Dillian Whyte. Now, the reason why I want to talk about Dillian Whyte, and I thought it was a good time to talk about it, is because I've had a little bit of time to sit back and think, what's going on with him. And it's a little bit curious because obviously in line for a title shot, let's kind of look at the timeline for Dillian Whyte. In line for a title shot, waited 1,000 days. For most of that, obviously, he was looking at Deontay Wilder. Wilder, there's a lot of kind of back and forth between the two, and Wilder saying, you're not good enough for me, you need to fight Ortiz, and then if you beat him, then you can fight me. There's also, I think he DM'd Dillian Whyte saying, I'm never going to, whilst I'm champion, you're never going to get your shot. So obviously a lot of beef between the two. Then obviously Fury won and got that WBC belt, and Dillian Whyte really in line to face Tyson Fury, if not next after the AJ fights, which hopefully will happen next. And then basically face Povetkin in a risky fight that he didn't need to, after facing a number of risky fighters really when he was in that mandatory position. Off the top of my head, we're talking about Joseph Parker, we're talking about Oscar Rivas, we're talking about Derek Chisora twice, or once even, I guess, when he was mandatory. So Marius Wack, who obviously we've seen is not up there in terms of being fringe world level, but he's still a serious campaigner. So I think Dillian Whyte is taking risk after risk that he didn't really need to take. And then Povetkin, unfortunately for him, was just one step, one risk too far for him, one step too far for him. And I just think if you look at that fight, I don't want to go too much into that because that's not really the purpose of this video, but very, very briefly, he was in relative control of the fight in terms of, obviously, he'd knocked down Povetkin, and you're looking at it thinking, okay, he's hurt him a couple of times. He's going to be able to get him out of there. Obviously, that wasn't the case. And I think Anthony Joshua said, he was commentating and said, because Dillian Whyte, he didn't take his foot off the gas per se. There wasn't much left in that round. I just think it's one of those things that, normally you might see Dillian Whyte running out to Povetkin and try and knock him out straight away a bit wildly, but it was a bit more measured. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that particularly, but I did think to a degree, maybe he could have been a bit more proactive after he'd hurt him. But it's a difficult one because, if he hadn't got caught with that uppercut, he's probably going to go on to win that fight. Then you're talking about it being a very, very clinical performance. But anyway, gets knocked out with that huge uppercut, one of the shots of the year. And credit to Povetkin, recovered, and just that left uppercut is just incredible. Anyway, so Dillian Whyte, obviously, another setback for him after losing to Joshua for the British title a number of years ago. And now another setback after being in mandatory position to finally get his world title shot. So as someone who, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Dillian Whyte. Just his personality, his charisma, the way he fights, his improvement over the years. Because I do, even after that loss, I still think he is probably the most improved heavyweight boxer out there, in my opinion. And if you think, oh, what are you talking about? I'm not talking about in terms of he is now the best heavyweight out there or he is the most skilled heavyweight out there. I'm just saying that from where he started to where he is now, he's the most improved. People like Fury and Joshua, yes, they have improved. But for example, with Fury, yes, he has improved, a pretty substantial amount, but he already had a very, good base. Even Joshua, of course, we talk about the fact that he didn't have many amateur fights, but he's still got gold medal Olympic pedigree. So that's no joke. So I just think with him, just very, very impressive in terms of his improvements, and a little bit disappointing from a British perspective and someone who is a bit of a fan of Dillian Whyte to see that happen to him, because I think it can go one of two ways that you can think about it. You can either think, okay, it's really unlucky because he's so close to getting that world title shot. Or you could think, realistically, the fighter that he is right now, would he have beaten Wilder or Fury? Because let's go at Joshua, because I think that wasn't going to happen, because he wants a WBC bout at the moment. Would he have beaten them in his current, I guess, style and his current level? Some people might say yes. Some people might say no. I think the majority of people are going to be saying no, especially to Tyson Fury. For Deontay Wilder, they may not say as much after that loss to Fury. Look, I think for Dillian Whyte, he always says he's learning on the job. And I do think, even though it's a setback, he took it on the chin. And I have to say, his attitude afterwards is very, very good. Was very good even, because he's just taken it on and said, you know what, it happens. You get caught, it's heavyweight boxing. I'll pick myself up, dust myself off, and I'll come back and I want the rematch. I want to beat him up in the rematch, basically. But well played to him. It's a very good shot. I just think for him, this is actually might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, and I'll tell you why. Anthony Joshua, right? Blowing people out, everyone's got the hype was around him. Goes to Madison Square Garden. Andrew Ruiz beats him. A lot of those deficiencies that Joshua had as a fighter, he hadn't looked at, and I can tell you that now. But after that Ruiz loss, 100% he's looked at where he's gone wrong. He's also looked, very, very, intricately into his training regime, his program, etc. He realized, I'm doing too much strength and conditioning and not enough boxing training. So now he is more becoming someone who is looking into the ins and outs of boxing from a technical aspect, rather than saying, I'm going to bench 150 kilograms or whatever it might be. So I think, yes, as a heavyweight, strength and conditioning is still, an important part, but your main focus should be on the boxing aspect, and that's what he's done. Similarly, I think this could be, for Dillian Whyte, an opportunity to now look upon his training regime. I think he still works very hard. I'm not going to say to you that he will definitely change something. He might not. Obviously, he went in there with a new trainer in Xavier Miller, who is unknown to most, after dropping Mark Tibbs, which a lot of people were saying, that was a bad decision. Look, I don't think the trainer change made the difference in this fight, if I'm honest with you. I just think, one, it gives him more time, though, with the new trainer. And two, he's got a little bit more time, because the rematch was supposed to be in November. Back end of November, obviously got moved back because Povetkin got COVID. Now it's given even more time to think, okay, look, these little bits in my training, in my camps, what can I improve on? It could just be small things, like, well, you say small, but it could just be things that you wouldn't even think of, like nutrition. Like, should I be doing as many runs? What type of runs should I be doing? Stuff like that. Okay, how much time am I dedicating to actually doing boxing specific training? How much time am I dedicating to strength and conditioning? How much time am I dedicating to recovery? Am I getting the right recovery? Am I getting the right physio, etc.? Whatever it might be, right? And I think for me, that is very, very important for him, because, as I said, he is still learning on the job, even more so than these other fighters. And that's why it's a little bit of that's why I do say it's a curious case, because there's just so many different layers to this Dillian Whyte story and his journey, because I don't know. If I'm being honest with you, if he'd gone in with Deontay Wilder before those first two Fury fights, I'm saying it's a fire fest, and really Dillian Whyte has to knock him out. Someone's getting knocked out. I would like to think that Dillian Whyte could have done it, but look, the odds at that time, and let's be honest, most people's opinions would have said that the sun is shining on Deontay Wilder at that time, and most likely Deontay Wilder would have got that win. Similarly, around the time that he fought Povetkin, if you're if you're thinking about, okay, who's going to win out of Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury, I'm going to be honest with you, most people are going to be saying Tyson Fury, and there's a reason for that, and that's just because Tyson Fury is that skilled. Most people think that Tyson Fury is the #1 heavyweight on the planet. I'm not saying I do, I'm just saying that a lot of people do. And a lot of people think that he'll be AJ, he'll be everyone out there, basically. So I just think for Dillian Whyte, it gives him a bit more time to work on his craft, work on his boxing IQ, and just really continue to improve. And one thing actually that I do want to say as well is, of course, he wants that rematch with Povetkin, but it looks like it might not happen now because Povetkin is struggling. He's kind of struggled to recover from COVID probably the way that he would have liked. A lot of people are seeing short to long-term effects from COVID after even having the virus out of their system, whether it's like, having less lung capacity than they used to, etc. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm no doctor, so I don't want to go into that too much, but obviously there's some type of side effects or effects after COVID that some people are experiencing. And I think that's what Povetkin's team is citing at the moment. So they might even have to move it back from the, I think, proposed date of 30th of January. But I think Dillian Whyte saying, no, I want to fight on the 30th of January, whenever it is. So for me, if he's going to fight and he's thinking, you know what, okay, if Povetkin's not going to be ready, say that Povetkin fight doesn't happen, and he says, I'm just going to move on. Okay, yeah, ideally I wanted to avenge that loss, but I'm going to move on and fight another good contender and get myself back now into the mix and try and push again to get to be mandatory for WBC, whichever other organization it may be. But I know he's highly ranked with the WBC even still, so I think he'll still want that. Okay, so let's go on to then the proposed fighters. Luis Ortiz, Michael Hunter, Martin Bakole. This is off the top of my head. Deontay Wilder. Okay, let's first of all talk about Deontay Wilder, because I think this one for me, sorry, Andy Ruiz is another one as well. Deontay Wilder for me is the most unlikely. And the reason why I say that is because I know Deontay Wilder is looking for a fight. He did actually list Dillian Whyte in a list of fighters that he'd like to fight next if he doesn't get the Fury fight. But he put Helenius in there, and most likely we're going to get Helenius. I'm going to be honest with you. Because with PBC, it's just an easy fight to make, and Helenius is coming off a good win against Kalnaki, which was a big upset, and Deontay Wilder will be thinking, like, I'm not going to get... He will get a substantial amount more from Dillian Whyte, a substantial amount more, but... does he really want that straight up Tyson Fury after losing in that manner? Probably not. But not to say that he won't take it, he might. But for me, that's the most unlikely, is Deontay Wilder. So I'd put that to one side. If that was to happen now, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I really do. I think it's 50-50 now. The reason why I say that is because even though Dillian Whyte's loss, that knockout was so devastating, he was in control of that fight. But Deontay Wilder got absolutely manhandled in that Fury fight. And yes, we're talking about two different animals. Fury is another level to Povetkin, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter, because I just think psychologically, a lot of people are even saying, Deontay Wilder, is he the same man psychologically? How is this going to affect him? Some people, he can go one of two ways. He can either come back stronger or he can come back as a broken man. So we'll see. But I just think if Dillian Whyte was to fight him now, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I don't see it as being in favor of anyone, in my opinion. I know Deontay Wilder's still got that power. I understand that, but I just think Dillian Whyte will just try and rough him up and come forward, and really it's going to be whoever lands first, because I just think they both have beef with each other. The build-up would be amazing, but I'm going to temper my expectations and say that's probably not going to happen next. Let's go on to Luis Ortiz, Michael Hunter, and Martin Bakole. So Martin Bakole's trainer, actually, let's go on to that first, said, Billy Nelson, basically said, look, we're looking to get Dillian Whyte because really he's the one just below your world champions. Let's be honest, that's what Dillian Whyte is at the moment. He's just that rung below. Even after that loss, I still firmly believe he's in that rung just below. You've got your kind of A+ fighters in your Joshua and Fury, and then maybe Usyk, I guess. It just kind of depends where you rank him. And then you've got your A fighters, your Dillian Whyte. So I think Deontay Wilder's now in there. Andy Ruiz, those types of fighters. Okay, now Martin McCauley has just beaten Sergey Kuzmin on the AJ undercard to win the WBC international title. So he's got a decent ranking with the WBC. So for Dillian Whyte, it could potentially help him in terms of climbing up the WBC rankings again. Do I think Dillian Whyte's going to take that fight? No, because I just don't think it's an attractive fight in terms of public demand. I think people would rather see him fight Luis Ortiz, who's a more well-known name. Even here in the UK, if I'm being honest with you, I'd say Luis Ortiz is probably still a well-known name. And just because he's fought Deontay Wilder, they also talk about him fighting AJ as well. So I would, and he's fought here as well in the UK, I think against Dave Allen it was. So that was a bit of a stinker, though, if I'm honest with you. But he's still, I still think that's a bigger fight, Ortiz and Dillian Whyte. Even Michael Hunter and Dillian Whyte, I think it is. Martin McCauley, I think, is a very, very solid fighter. I just think, in terms of demand and whether Dillian Whyte wants it, I think he's going to say no to that, if I'm being honest with you. But we can see. Okay, let's move on to the other three, even, that I want to touch upon, because I want to include Andy Ruiz in that as well. Michael Hunter, obviously beaten Martin McCauley and Sergey Kuzmin. They were the two losses. For each fighter, they had one loss each, and both were to Michael Hunter in Martin McCauley and Sergey Kuzmin. Okay, I just think Dillian Whyte's thinking to himself, there's no money in this fight. Similar to Martin McCauley, Michael Hunter is not hugely well known here in the UK. Look, I'm someone who's a big fan of boxing, so I know him and I know him very well, but I just don't think he's a massive draw here or in the US, etc. at the moment. And it's weird because I just don't think he's been promoted in the right way, because he's a very, very good fighter, very, very good. Hasn't lost a single fight heavyweight as of yet. Unlucky, in my opinion, to get a draw against Povetkin on the AJ or the Ruiz AJ2 undercard. But look, I mean, a very, very solid fighter. And I would love to see that fight. If I'm being honest with you, the fight that I'd like to see the most is definitely Dillian Whyte, Deontay Wilder as number one. But number two, I'd like to see that Michael Hunter fight. That'll be my second option, if I'm honest with you. I know from a casual fan, I don't think it has that appeal, but from hardcore boxing fans and people that really know their boxing, I think they'll definitely say that Michael Hunter, Dillian Whyte is something, or Dillian Whyte, Michael Hunter is definitely something that they'd like to see. Okay, Luis Ortiz. I think this could happen just because he is still pretty well known. And I just think he's still someone that, if you put him on your resume, it does still look good. Obviously, his only two losses are to Deontay Wilder, both by knockout. That second fight, I mean, he outboxed him so much, but then Deontay Wilder just landed a big one on him, and that's it. Like, sayonara. Short right hand, what a shot. But anyway, Luis Ortiz, I think, if he's at his best and he's fit and he's proactive in terms of his fighting style, because sometimes he can be a bit drab in terms of the way he fights, I still think it's a tough fight for Dillian Whyte. I still think it's an exciting fight because he's a southpaw as well, and it's something a bit different for Dillian Whyte to deal with. And I think it would 100% improve if he gets through that fight and wins that. He's only going to improve after that fight because he's Cuban Luis Ortiz. He's well schooled. He's no slouch. Let's be honest. And he was seen as being the boogeyman the boogeyman of the division before Deontay Wilder knocked him out in that first fight. Look, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I just think, again, it's a difficult one to make, but we can see how it goes. I just think that's probably the more likely option, potentially. I think Luis Ortiz says he wants to fight either Dillian Whyte or Povetkin next. I don't know whether that means that he's waiting for them to fight and then wants to fight the winner, or whether he's happy to fight one of them in his next fight before that. So Dillian Whyte has made clear that he wants to fight, that he's willing to face Ortiz in February. So I don't know. It's really weird. I just think, I don't know, man. It's a weird one. I just think, I don't think he does huge numbers. but I think it's a very, very exciting fight. And actually, I don't know, is that the one I want to see more than Michael Hunter? I don't know, they're all good fights. I'm going to be honest with you, they're all good fights. Apart from it, I feel like it's a bit early for Martin McCauley, but the other fighters, I think, all up for it. Okay, let's touch on Andy Ruiz Jr. You know what? Actually, if I'm honest with you, I'm going to completely revise it. If Andy Ruiz is fit and he's trained, like he's now with Canelo's team, if he is fit and he's taking it seriously, then apart from the Deontay Wilder fight, I'd go Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, Luis Ortiz, actually, I'm amend this, Michael Hunter, and Martin McCauley. That would be my order of opponents that I'd like to see against Dillian Whyte. And Andy Ruiz, let's be honest, this guy, he can fight, man. He can fight. That second fight against Anthony Joshua, he didn't show the best version of himself. Let's be 100% honest. Not taking anything away from AJ because it was a very good performance, I thought. But in terms of whether the best Andy Ruiz turned up, I don't think he did 100%. He came in a little bit overweight. He admitted after that he was partying too hard, that he wasn't taking it as seriously. Manny Robles, they split with Manny Robles after, and Manny Robles said after, he's hard to control because of his father as well, and it spiraled out of control after the first win against Joshua, or the first fight against Joshua where he won. So I don't know, man. I just think he is a top fighter when he's on it, and I just really hope that with the guidance of Canelo's team, because they're so strict, and you can see what they're like with Canelo, Ryan Garcia, those types of fighters, that they don't mess around. And I just hope that they're not. I just hope that they're doing the same thing with Andy Ruiz. But we'll see. We'll see, won't we? Come the new year, we will see what happens. But Andy Ruiz, I would love to see that fight against Dillian Whyte. They've had loads of back and forth. They've been putting stuff on Instagram about each other and tagging themselves in ridiculous, like, lookalike pictures, etc. But yeah, I just think that's a quality fight to see. Okay, I've gone on a bit longer than I thought I would on this, but there's just so much to talk about surrounding Dillian Whyte, if I'm honest with you. So he could be fighting end of January or February now. I think it looks like it's probably going to be the date. Obviously, nothing announced yet. So I'm assuming that if he is going to fight in February, they're going to have to announce that in the first week or two of the new year. So let's see how it goes. But I'm really looking forward to him coming back in action, because I just want to see how he now responds. I don't think he'll have an issue thinking, I got knocked out because he didn't win the Joshua fight. And I don't think he's that type of person that it's going to get in his head. I think he's going to be thinking, okay, I made this little mistake. I'm not going to do that again. And he'll just go in with that still fearless mindset. And I think he cited that he'll probably be a bit more aggressive going forward in his fights, and he lost a little bit of that maybe in the Povetkin fight. Let's see. Okay, thanks very much, guys, for watching as well. I really have to say that the support has been great. I mean, I've only started this channel. It would have been... So, okay, I've started this channel nearly 4 months now. And the support and comments, and to be honest with you, just views and people even just following me on Instagram, my Quality Shot page as well, and yeah, just leaving comments. It's just really overwhelming. So thank you so much for that, and long may it continue, hopefully. Okay, I'll see you on the next video. Stay safe, guys, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing Dillian Whyte coming out. And okay, thank you.